It was 6:30 in the morning when Carol checked her blood sugar, the same way she'd done for the past 4 years. Coffee not even started yet, robe still on, and the number on that little screen made her sit down at the kitchen table and just stare at it. It was higher than it had been the morning before, higher than she expected, and the thing is, she hadn't eaten anything sweet the day before. No dessert, no soda. She'd actually been pretty careful. So she sat there in that quiet kitchen, the refrigerator humming behind her, and asked herself the question I hear almost every week in my office. I barely had any sugar yesterday, so why is my number still high? I want you to remember Carol because we're going to come back to her. Here's something most people are never told, and it surprised me too early in my career. Blood sugar doesn't only respond to dessert. For a lot of people over 50, it responds to what happens in the evening. What you eat, when you eat it, even how you sleep. Your body is still working on all of that while you're lying there with your eyes closed. So today I want to walk you through 5 foods that, as part of a balanced way of eating, may help support steadier blood sugar overnight. And the 4th one is going to surprise you, because most of you already have it sitting in a cupboard somewhere and have no idea what it's capable of. I also want to share 3 habits, common ones I see constantly, that quietly work against you in the evening without anyone realizing it. And stay with me to the end, because the last food on this list is one that endocrinologists bring up again and again when they talk about healthy aging. It's not flashy, but it might be the most important one here. Let's start with the why, because I think understanding the why is what actually makes people change something. After 50, your body starts handling sugar a little differently. Not because anything is broken, just because things shift. Insulin resistance becomes more common. Think of insulin like a key and your cells like locked doors. When you're younger, that key turns smoothly. As we age, the locks get a little stiff. The key still works, but it takes more of it to get the same door open. That means more circulating insulin and often higher blood sugar sitting around longer than it used to. Then there's muscle. We lose it gradually starting in our 40s, more if we're not strength training, and muscle is actually one of your best tools for clearing sugar out of your bloodstream. Less muscle, less of that natural buffer. Metabolism slows a little too. Sleep gets lighter and more fragmented for a lot of people your age, and poor sleep raises stress hormones like cortisol, which, and this catches people off guard, actually pushes blood sugar up even with nothing sweet involved. So when Carol asked me why her number was high without eating sugar, this is what I told her. It's never just one thing. It's usually 4 or 5 small things stacking up quietly, like dishes in a sink you tell yourself you'll get to tomorrow. Now let's talk about food. Real, ordinary food. The first one is almonds, or walnuts if you prefer them. Nothing exotic, nothing you need to order online. Here's why they matter. Nuts carry healthy fats, fiber, and a bit of protein, and that combination does something useful. It slows down digestion. When digestion slows down, sugar enters your bloodstream more gradually instead of all at once. Picture pouring water through a wide-open funnel versus pouring it through one with a narrow spout. Same water, very different speed. A small handful, about a quarter cup in the early evening, is plenty. I had a patient, Frank, 68 years old, retired electrician, who used to eat a sleeve of crackers in front of the evening news out of pure habit. We swapped that for a small bowl of almonds. Within about 3 weeks, his morning numbers were noticeably steadier. Not a miracle, just a swap. One word of caution, nuts are calorie dense, so if you're watching your weight, that quarter cup is a real measurement, not a however many fit in my hand situation. I've had patients with surprisingly large hands. The second food is plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt. The protein content is excellent, and protein, like fiber, slows that sugar absorption down. There's also a gut health piece. Your digestive bacteria actually play a role in how your body processes carbohydrates, and yogurt with live cultures supports that environment. The key word is unsweetened. I can't stress that enough. Some of the vanilla or honey-flavored yogurts on the shelf have nearly as much sugar as a candy bar, and they're sitting right there in the health food aisle looking innocent. Read the label. If the first ingredient is some form of sugar, put it back. About 3/4 of a cup in the evening works well for most people. If dairy doesn't agree with you, unsweetened soy yogurt is a reasonable substitute. It has a similar protein profile. I think of Margaret, 71, who told me she'd been eating yogurt every night for years, thinking she was doing herself a favor. It was a flavored brand with 18 grams of added sugar per cup. She switched to plain yogurt with a few berries stirred in herself. Her words to me were, "I didn't know I was sabotaging myself with a healthy snack." Third, cinnamon, stirred into oatmeal or that same plain yogurt. Now, I want to be careful here because cinnamon gets oversold online constantly, and I don't want to be one more voice doing that to you. Some research suggests cinnamon may have a modest, supportive effect on how the body responds to sugar. It is not a treatment. It will not undo a poor diet. Think of it less like medicine and more like a helpful teammate. Useful, but not playing the game by itself. Half a teaspoon stirred into your oatmeal is enough. There's no benefit to dumping in more, and too much of the cassia variety, which is the common grocery store kind, isn't ideal in large amounts over time, so moderation actually matters here. All right, let's pause for a second because I'm genuinely curious about something. What was your fasting number this morning if you check it? Do you test daily or only when something feels off? I read the comments on these videos, every one of them, because honestly, that's how I learn what people are actually dealing with day to day. So tell me honestly down below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. I cover topics like this for older adults every week. Plain language, no hype. Now, food number 4. The one I told you about at the start. Pumpkin seeds. I'll be honest, this one surprises almost everyone, including some of my colleagues the first time I bring it up. Pumpkin seeds are rich in magnesium, and magnesium plays a real role in how your body uses insulin. A lot of older adults are quietly low in magnesium without any idea. It doesn't show up on a routine blood panel unless someone specifically looks for it. They also have a solid amount of protein and healthy fat, which again, slower digestion, steadier release of sugar. About 2 tablespoons, unsalted, raw, or roasted, makes a satisfying evening snack. And here's a story that stuck with me. A patient named Walter, 74, widower, told me his evening ritual for years had been a sleeve of cheese crackers and a recliner. After his wife passed, he said food had become just something to do with his hands while watching television. We talked about that honestly, not just the blood sugar, the loneliness behind the habit too. He started keeping a small jar of pumpkin seeds by the chair instead. 6 weeks later, his morning numbers had improved, but what he told me mattered more than the numbers. He said the ritual still gave him comfort, it just wasn't working against him anymore. That's the kind of change I actually care about, not perfection, just something a little kinder to your body. And now, the 5th one. I've been building toward this one on purpose. Leafy greens. Spinach, kale, even simple romaine. Of everything on this list, this is the one specialists bring up most consistently when they talk about long-term blood sugar health. Greens are loaded with fiber and almost nothing in the way of starch or sugar, so adding them to dinner essentially dilutes the overall sugar impact of the meal, while also slowing digestion through that fiber. You're not removing anything, you're adding something that works in your favor. A simple approach, a side salad with dinner, or sautéed spinach with a little garlic and olive oil. 5 minutes, nothing fancy. The strongest story I have involves a woman named Diane, 63, who came to me frustrated after months of frustrating fasting numbers despite doing everything right, in her words. When we went through her dinners together, I noticed almost no vegetables at all, mostly starches, a protein, repeat. We added a simple greens-based salad before dinner every single night, nothing else changed. Over 2 months, her fasting numbers came down meaningfully. She looked at me and said, "That's it? Just a salad first?" Sometimes it really is that unglamorous. Now, let me tell you what works against all of this, because this matters just as much as the food itself. Mistake 1. Large desserts late at night. Obvious, I know, but I see it constantly, especially after a stressful day, when dessert becomes more about comfort than appetite. Mistake 2. Sugary drinks before bed. Juice, sweetened tea, even some health drinks marketed at your generation specifically. Liquid sugar hits your bloodstream faster than almost anything else. Mistake 3, and this one surprises people: skipping dinner entirely. Some folks think less food means lower numbers. Sometimes it backfires because your body can respond to that gap with a stress hormone surge that actually raises blood sugar. This varies person to person, which is exactly why it's worth discussing with your own doctor rather than guessing. Mistake 4. Poor sleep. I could do an entire video on this alone. Even one night of fragmented sleep measurably affects next morning blood sugar in research studies. It's not in your head. Your body genuinely processes sugar differently when it's exhausted. I want to be completely honest with you, the way I would be with a patient sitting across from me. No single food flushes sugar out of your system overnight. There is no cure hiding in a cupboard. These 5 foods are supportive habits, small additions to an already reasonable way of eating, not a replacement for your medication or your doctor's guidance. If you're managing diabetes, please continue following your care team's plan and bring these ideas to them as questions, not substitutions. Healthy aging was never about finding one miracle food. I wish it were that simple, truly. It's about small, unremarkable choices, repeated quietly, day after day. One better dinner doesn't fix everything, but it can lead to one better morning. And one better morning, repeated enough times, can become a different kind of future than the one you were worried about. Carol, by the way, we added a side salad to her dinners and swapped her evening crackers for almonds. Nothing dramatic. 3 weeks later, she texted her daughter a photo of her glucose reading with 3 exclamation points, which her daughter later told me was very unlike her mother. So tell me, which of these 5 do you already have in your kitchen, and which one are you going to try this week? I'd genuinely like to know. If this helped you understand something about your own mornings, consider sending it to somebody who needs it: a spouse, an old friend, your brother who insists his numbers are fine and hasn't checked them since spring. Sometimes people just need someone to explain things clearly, without judgment. And if you'd like more conversations like this one, subscribe and join me here. Next time, we're going to talk about one common breakfast mistake that may be keeping blood sugar elevated all day long for adults over 60. It's one almost nobody thinks to question. Take care of yourself this week. I'll see you in the next one.